Can you believe this? I'm still reeling from something no man should ever have to admit out loud. My home, my sanctuary was targeted by a damn biker gang. And why? Over a petty HOA dispute. They thought they could flex their muscle, intimidate me, and scare me off my own land. Oh, how wrong they were. They didn't just stumble into a fight. They ran headfirst into a man trained to end wars, not start them. A Delta Force commander doesn't flinch at a few leather-clad thugs. Let me take you back to where it all began, because trust me, this story's wild. Where are you reading this from, by the way? I'd love to know. The first hint of trouble wasn't some official letter or a knock at the door. It was the motion light over my barn door, snapping on at 3:14 a.m. No flicker, no stray cat, no raccoon rummaging through the trash. Just a steady blinding floodlight screaming that something or someone was out there. Did I panic? Hell no, I didn't even stand up right away. Old habits die hard, you know? Never move until you've seen what you're dealing with. I sat there, heart-steady eyes locked on the monitor in the corner of my living room. The screen glowed cold casting shadows while my coffee sat untouched on the stove. At first it looked like nothing, just darkness. But I've tracked too many men who thought they were ghosts to fall for. That two figures crept along my outer fence line, moving slow, deliberate, like they knew how to stay invisible. Too bad for them, they were already caught. One had a subtle limp, his right leg dragging just enough to notice the other. He was scanning with a red-lensed flashlight, short sweeps, low beam. That's no civilian trick, that's textbook recon, the kind I mastered years ago. Who were these guys? They didn't try to break in. Didn't even touch the gate. But one of them, get this, walked straight to the well. Cap tapped it twice and just strolled away. Tap, tap, like some cryptic message. No reason, no pattern, just that eerie double tap that sent chills down my spine. They didn't take anything, but oh, they left something behind. The next morning I found it nailed to my barn door, a jet black charm carved from bone shaped like a skull, with barbed wire etched through its jaw and military hash marks down the side. This wasn't some cheap truck stop trinket. It was a marker, a warning, and it screamed trouble. Right below it, half buried in the gravel, were boot tracks wide, deep, not local. I followed them, heart pounding, for 60 yards until they vanished into the scrub brush behind the hill. Who leaves tracks like that? 4 hours later, Karen showed up. No call, no knock, just strutting halfway up my private drive with her designer poodle and a smile so fake it could have been patented. She wore a pastel windbreaker like it was her battle armor, and that dog didn't sniff, didn't bark, didn't even pause to pee. What kind of dog doesn't do that? Beautiful day, she chirped, like she wasn't a mile onto my property. Still private land, I shot back, my voice low. I just wanted some fresh air. Try Whole Foods. This is work land, she said, her fake laugh sounding like a robot on repeat. Some of us on the board have noticed equipment in violation of the HOA's standards. Equipment. You mean the hay baler that's been sitting in the same spot for 8 years? I asked, incredulous. I'm sure you understand. Community aesthetics are important, she replied, her tone dripping with condescension. Aesthetics this? I pointed at a goat that with impeccable timing dropped a pile on a rock. Her lips tightened, and I swear I saw her eye twitch. I would hate for this to become confrontational, she said, but I wasn't having it. You're already here with a leash on my gravel, I snapped. It's not personal, Karen. Everything with you is personal. You tried to find me for using a chainsaw at noon. She glanced at the barn, lingering a beat too long, and said, just remember, we're a community, and communities only work when everyone cooperates. Then she turned and left, not once looking at her dog. What was her deal? That afternoon, I found a violation notice in my mailbox, standard HOA nonsense on official letterhead. But this one, it had a second page, and the footer read, Notice 1 of 3 before legal enforcement action, signed by Karen Whitaker, President Simmons Valley Homeowners Association, Acting Director of Security Enforcement. Security Enforcement. Since when did we vote for that? I stared at that line, my gut twisting. Something was seriously wrong here. That night I couldn't shake the feeling, so I went to my workshop and pulled out the box, the one I swore I'd never touch again. Hidden beneath a false panel, behind rusted tool bins and a lock I hadn't opened in years, it held a folded sat phone, an encrypted flash drive, a folder labeled Moss Rock Echo, and a toolkit for things most folks shouldn't even know exist. Was I going hunting? Not yet, but if they came back, I sure as hell wasn't greeting them with a handshake. Then it happened again. The barn door light tripped, but this time it flickered once and died. Power cut clean. 2 minutes later, my backup feed buzzed. Someone was on the eastern trail moving fast, then stopping dead. I grabbed the monitor, zoomed in, and there he was, the same limping figure staring right into the lens. No smile, no mask. Just those cold, unblinking eyes watching me. My heart raced. How did he know where the camera was? Then he turned and melted into the trees, leaving me with nothing but questions. The next morning, I found my sign, the one nailed to my front post that reads, "Trespassers will be buried where they fall flipped upside down, not torn off, not defaced, just reversed with surgical precision, like they wanted me to see it but not hear them." That's not intimidation. That's a chess move. Who plays games like this? I spent 4 hours checking wires, swapping trail cam batteries, resetting thermal sweeps, and reactivating high-frequency trip alarms I'd buried years ago to catch poachers. Sleep not a chance. I didn't blink, didn't rage. I planned, I mapped, I waited. Karen had no idea who she was messing with. I faced enemies with real firepower, and they didn't send poodles to do their dirty work. But what haunted me wasn't the letter, the charm, or even that limping creep staring into my camera. It was that tap on the well. I hadn't used that well in 7 years. Not a soul was supposed to know it was still connected to anything. But someone did, and they weren't just testing me. They were marking the spot. Why, what did they know? Then they came not loud and reckless, but smooth, calculated like a predator stalking prey. 6 of them on matte black bikes, so clean they gleamed like hospital equipment. Engines purring soft and sinister. They rolled past my gate at exactly 10:13 a.m. Single file, not too slow, not too fast, no music, no waving, just a precision. Cruise by like they were scanning my land for weaknesses. I stood on the porch, heart pounding, but steady eyes locked on them. Did I blink? Not once. They didn't look back. That was their first pass, but I knew they'd be back. Sure enough, at sunset, those same 6 bikes returned. Same formation, same chilling vibe. But this time, one peeled off his front tire, kissing the edge of my gravel, holding there for 3 agonizing seconds before rejoining the pack. He didn't glance at the house, didn't nod, just left his mark in my dirt. What kind of message was that? The next morning, I found my mailbox bent at a 30-degree angle. Not smashed, not trashed, just tweaked enough to say, "We were here, and we chose not to knock." My trail cam's offline but not fried. One had its cord detached with surgical precision. Another had its lens unscrewed and placed upside down on a fence post. That's not vandalism, that's a taunt. Who does that? Then I found her, my goat, lying just beyond the east fence line. No blood, no drag marks. Just a broken neck and a leather strap tied tight around her rear leg. The knot, not some random loop, it was a field binding fast. Silent, the exact technique I used in Kandahar to move livestock without a sound. You don't learn that on YouTube. Someone had either studied me or, God forbid, worked with me. My stomach churned. Who was this close to my past? That night, I packed a bag not for a vacation, but the way I used to: tight, silent surgical thermal scope burner phone, encrypted drive, suppressed Glock 1 pair of boots, 2 full mags, a map of the valley, and a worn coin I'd carried on every op. It was my reminder: you don't run unless you're ready to chase. I didn't call the sheriff, didn't ask for permission. I was done playing nice. They led me right where they wanted, out past county lines to a bar with no name, no address, just a buzzing neon sign flickering in the dark. I parked 2 lots over in a neutral truck, no identifiers, and waited, my pulse steady but my mind racing. At 9:48 p.m., those 6 bikes rolled in same eerie dance. Then at 10:06, Karen stepped out wearing a hoodie stamped HOA Property Integrity Division, custom made, and she wore it like a badge of honor. She laughed, clinked bottles, and pointed at a map unrolled on a trash can. My valley, my land. She was plotting against me. She didn't look scared. She looked like she was cashing a bonus check. I slipped in through the back kitchen door, long coat cap pulled low, the stench of greased leather and bad intentions hitting me like a wave. I slid into a booth, didn't speak, didn't order, just watched and listened. "He's stubborn," one guy said. So push again, another growled. Karen's nervous. Then the kicker. Karen doesn't matter. Someone snarled. The buyer wants him sweating, not bleeding yet. My heart skipped. Karen wasn't the mastermind. She was just a middle manager, and someone bigger had me on their radar. Then I saw him, Jake McBride, ex-military, ex-human. As far as I'm concerned, I hadn't seen him in a decade, but that scar across his knuckles. Unmistakable from the time I dragged him out of a failed op with a bullet in his shoulder. He didn't spot me, but another guy did, his eyes lingering on my corner, a beat too long. I was out the door before that glance became a signal. My blood was boiling. How deep did this go? When I got home, my barn door was ajar. Not broken, just open. Inside, a crow hung upside down from the rafters. Neck twisted, eyes empty. Beneath it, a spent 7.62mm casing. Clean and deliberate, with 3 words carved into the stall door. Still watching, soldier. My heart pounded. Who was playing these games? The next morning, Karen called, her voice dripping with fake cheer. Mr. Callahan, we noticed you didn't submit your Q2 property upkeep form. Are you serious right now? You think I'm playing forms with you? I snapped. I think you're agitated, maybe even unstable, she cooed. You're arming contractors and trespassing, I shot back. That's quite an accusation. I saw you at the bar with them. I support local businesses, she said flatly. It's important to build bridges. You're burning yours, Karen. If you're feeling unsafe, Mr. Callahan, she said, her voice sickly sweet, perhaps you're not a good fit for this neighborhood. Say that again, I dared her. Or perhaps you need a wellness check. I'd be happy to recommend a licensed behavioral consultant. That wasn't concern. It was a threat wrapped in silk. I hung up before she could twist another word into a weapon. Days later, I stopped for diesel. 2 towns over, the guy behind the counter wore a Shell Polo name tag reading Mike. But that scar on his hand, same one I saw at the bar. He rang me up like we weren't in a silent war. But my skin crawled. That night, I fortified the garage, set backup feeds, buried trip alarms, and checked the windows. That's when I saw it, a smudge on the inside pane. A single left index fingerprint at an angle I hadn't seen in years. I ran it, and when the name popped up, I froze. This wasn't just some thug. It was someone I'd trained, trusted, fought beside. How could he betray me like this? Jake McBride. I hadn't said his name in 7 years, hadn't written. It hadn't even thought it. Some people you erase, not because they're gone, but because they left wrong. His fingerprint inside my garage window screamed betrayal. We'd met on a mission that didn't exist somewhere south of Kandahar, north of sanity. Jake was the guy who laughed when bullets zipped too close, the guy who dragged me out of a kill zone with a ruptured quad and drones circling like vultures. We're not dead yet, he joked, blood staining his teeth. Let's not ruin the streak. He wasn't just dangerous, he was family, and now he was circling my land like it was his to claim. How could he do this? I didn't sleep, didn't sit, just started piecing it together. Tapped an old network, pulled burner logs from a cell tower near Simmons Valley. One burner phone pinged 3 times from a motel 11 miles out. Old, crumbling, no website, no ice machine. But the power log showed thermal spikes every 4 hours. Someone was there staying cold. I drove out before dawn, neutral truck plates from a junked rental, parked in an alley behind a shuttered body shop. I waited, heart pounding. Hours passed, nothing. Then motion, a door opened. Blackout curtains, no lights. Jake stepped out, same walk, same posture, same dent in his matte black helmet, where I'd once clocked him for mouthing off mid-op. He fed $1 into the vending machine, grabbed a water. I almost stepped out, almost. Then he looked right at me, no flinch, no reaction, just sipped his water and walked back inside. No signal, no acknowledgement. But we both knew he saw me and chose silence. Why Jake? I didn't confront him. Instead, I slipped a folded photo into his saddlebag. Us in Baghdad, grinning like fools, bloodied but alive. On the back in Sharpie, you owe me more than silence, tucked inside. A single .308 round. Let him chew on that. That night, my laptop lit up at 3:12 a.m. An encrypted audio file, no sender. Jake's voice, flat and cold, cut through. You always said we'd be ghosts when this ended, but you built a fence, Callahan. You stopped moving. Now you're a mark. Walk away from the HOA mess. This isn't your op next time. I won't just send eyes, he paused. That bullet you left cute, but I'm not bluffing either. Silence. My blood ran cold. How far would he go? I checked the barn every hidden spot and found it taped under the hay lift platform, a hard drive labeled Echo Phase 2. Cracked it offline on a burner station drone footage, heat maps, my movement trails, zooms on my windows, me on the porch with my coffee. The final file, a single image me walking the fence line, crosshairs on my back. My heart stopped. Who was watching this closely? The next day, Karen held a neighborhood resilience panel. Folded chairs, lemonade fake smiles. We all feel stressed, she said, clicking through a PowerPoint. But stress makes us imagine threats where there are none. I stepped forward, heart pounding. Funny you say that, Karen, because I've got 64 hours of drone footage proving someone sees me as a threat. She blinked too fast. Mr. Callahan, this is a safe space. Safe for you, maybe with your Blackwater cosplay running recon on my barn. You sound paranoid and cornered. I pulled the printed image from my jacket, held it high. This was taken 3 nights ago, military-grade optics. Know who uses tech like this? Karen, she froze. Jake McBride. He's not sloppy. Silence. I didn't say he made a mistake. I said he's here. I misunderstood, she stammered. No, Karen, you remembered something. You weren't supposed to. Her smile was too tight, too late. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking like someone being hunted. She leaned in, fake concern dripping. If you're truly feeling unsafe, the board can suggest relocation options. If I'm going anywhere, I growled, it'll be through your firewall. I walked out the room, tense like a balloon about to pop. Who did she think she was fooling? At home, I dug up my old Echo unit logbook, the only paper record I kept. Inside, Alias's handler notes and one entry that chilled me. Echo 6 disavowed 2015. Alias signal ghost current activity unknown. Final order neutralize. That was Jake. He wasn't just back. He'd been reactivated. That hard drive wasn't surveillance. It was a hit list, and I wasn't the only target. Karen wasn't running an HOA. She was managing a target list, and Jake was her trigger man. Who pulls first in a game like this? They thought I was still on defense, but I've played too many games in deserts and jungles to react blindly. You win by rewriting the battlefield. So I became the trap. The HOA's digital ecosystem was a mess. Sloppy apps vendor, portals and security packages, some intern probably pitched. But every system has a shadow. I found their back-end gateway through EverSafe, their property management company, using a dystopian tool for behavioral compliance monitoring. The login page was still live from 2020, password Karen Whitaker 1. I laughed out loud. What an amateur. Inside was a digital kill book. 17 residents flagged as non-compliant with notes, footage, drone data schedules, asset values. This wasn't surveillance. It was a hit list with HOA letterhead. I mapped their recon and launched my own using a Syria trick lure. In log, I set a riding mower to idle off my western property line battery, rigged to cycle noise every 30 seconds. At 2:14 a.m., the tripwire snapped 2 heat signatures. Male low crouch, one with a rifle, one with comms. They weren't stealing, they were testing me. Time for my test. 2 nights later, I tagged their bikes with GPS beacons disguised as license plate screws. Same trick we used on enemy convoys. The pings led to an abandoned equipment lot 14 miles southwest their staging ground. Then Karen upped the ante, filing a petition to relocate me for community harmony under some BS HOA clause, seconded by a John H. Myers. The signature, Jake's handwriting from our 2011 Panama recon. Nice try, buddy. I crashed the HOA's General Assembly. Karen's monthly power trip, complete with folding chairs and a laminated schedule about trash bin uniformity. I walked in mid-sentence. She froze. Mr. Callahan, you're not on the speaker list. I'm not here to speak, I said, tossing a thick folder onto the table. I'm here to testify. Contracts, invoices, photos. McBride on her porch, her signature on a drone budget footage of her handing a phone to a biker in tactical gloves. This is fake, she blurted. Metadata says otherwise. I shot back. Created on your HOA laptop, uploaded from your guest Wi-Fi. Karen likes cats. Really? The room snickered. Her face cracked. You're bluffing. You're a threat, Karen. I trained the guy you hired to scare me. Silence. She reached for her phone, but I stepped closer. Call them. Let's see how it plays out. Her finger hovered screen glowing. You think you're untouchable. No, Karen, you just realized you're not pulling the strings. The doors swung open, my brother, Sheriff Callahan badge, gleaming with deputies and a warrant. You can't be serious, she shrieked. He's your brother. That's why I didn't want to serve it, he said coldly. The HOA was under investigation for conspiracy and fraud. Half the room stood claiming threats. Karen sank, pale eyes burning. This isn't over, she hissed. Oh, Karen, I said this hasn't even started. The next day, a plain envelope in my mailbox held a drone photo of my house in Fared, time-stamped 3:44 a.m., with a sticky note. Karen was the welcome mat. Now comes the front door. Karen was a decoy. Someone bigger was watching, and I just made them mad. The quiet after taking her down wasn't peace. It was the calm before the storm. Mailboxes rattled, trail cams. Triggered drones buzzed overhead. I opened my war chest because in Delta, when the mission changes, you adapt, no hesitation. Karen's HOA server logs revealed a folder. Circle 1 saw an active ops, poorly encrypted referencing Beta Site 3, a supposed DHS think tank experiment from 2011 shut down in 2015. On paper, maybe, but this was active. Karen was a manager for something massive. I called Lita, my old contact. If this is about another dead goat, I swear. It's bigger. Trace federal contractor shells linked to Circle 1 through HOA portals. Jesus, you're in deep, she said. An hour later, they're laundering intel through management platforms. Beta Site 3 is active. Langley fingerprints. Civilian contractors as compliance reps. One named Reyes, my spotter. Best in class, vanished after Honduras. Now listed as R. Dale on an HOA invoice. I tracked his IP to a Hollow Creek farmstead thermal, showing 3 bodies inside. I left a 308 shell scratched with, "You owe me an answer." Reyes called, voice like gravel. I told him you wouldn't stay buried. You knew it was me. You didn't hide your prints. You're working for them. I'm surviving. He admitted they sent Jake, but I rattled Karen too hard, so he stepped in. They call it the circle. You're in the middle and they're closing in. I fortified the ranch mics, IR tripwires, EMP locks. At 3:38 a.m., a young biker tripped my trap, caught by a tension bar, subject perimeter compromised. He whispered into his mic. I stepped out. That's because the asset has visual on you. One warning shot and he froze. Cuffed, shed sheriff. Message sent. Karen out on bail showed up with a lawyer. You're trespassing, Mr. Callahan, a hostile actor. You're irrelevant, I laughed. You haven't stopped the program, she sneered. Did you practice that in a mirror? Her lawyer squirmed. This doesn't end with me. You made the circle look weak. Let them try. That night, an unmarked envelope held a 7-figure check and a note. Everyone has a price. I burned it. Reyes appeared next morning unarmed. They're going dark. Your brother's probe got DHS attention. It's over. No, they're changing names. He asked to walk. I let him, but a hidden file on Karen's server. Reassignment Midwest Beta proved this wasn't the end. The first night after the takedown, the valley held its breath. The sheriff took every file, but Karen vanished. No statement, no trace. The HOA posted, due to unforeseen transitions, we're restructuring. Restructuring a war crime. I felt displaced. My home built on a sinkhole. I found one last surveillance node in a fake fence post, crushed it, and burned every bug and camera in a steel drum. Lita called, case closed. Your brother's metadata upload triggered a federal flag. They're scrubbing, but Midwest Phase 3 is active. My brother showed up with burgers and beer. You staying? For now. Rebuild. Maybe, or I burn this thing down, he laughed. You always overachieve. A steel case appeared at my gate. Burner phone USB altered Delta patch with a black circle. Phase 3 initiated. At 4:00 a.m., the phone lit up. Confirm receipt. I didn't reply. Not yet. Under the stars, I whispered. Think I'm the guy who turns down a second war. They can't buy my silence. I've seen the machine and I don't forget. The circle just changed zip codes, but I'm ready. They'll answer to me. Can you even imagine this? Later that week, I pulled into a gas station 2 towns over, just trying to fill up my truck with diesel, when I locked eyes with the guy behind the counter. He wore a Shell Polo name tag reading Mike, but that scar on his hand. Oh, I'd seen it before clear as day at that shady bar. My heart skipped a beat. How could he stand there ringing me up like we weren't locked in some silent war? He acted so casual, like we hadn't just crossed paths in enemy territory, but my gut screamed danger. That night I couldn't shake the unease, so I turned my garage into a fortress. I set up backup feeds buried triple arms deep in the soil and checked every window for signs of intrusion. That's when I saw it, a smudge on the inside pane of my garage window. A single left index fingerprint angled in a way I hadn't seen in years. My hands trembled as I lifted the print and ran it through my system. When the result pinged, I froze staring at the name on the screen. I didn't curse, didn't punch a wall, didn't even breathe, because the man who left that print wasn't just some grunt I served with. I trained him, trusted him, called him brother, and now he was circling my land like a predator, claiming my home as his own. How could he betray me like this? Jake McBride. I hadn't spoken his name in 7 years, hadn't written it, hadn't let it cross my mind. Some people you erase from your memory not because they're gone, but because they left wrong, their betrayal cutting deeper than any bullet. But that fingerprint on the inside of my window, it screamed everything. Jake was back, and he was playing a dangerous game. We met on a mission that never officially happened, somewhere south of Kandahar, north of sanity itself. Jake was the kind of guy who laughed when bullets cracked too close, his grin defying death itself. I'll never forget the day he dragged me out of a kill zone. My quad ruptured enemy drones buzzing overhead like vultures ready to feast. "We're not dead yet," he joked, his teeth stained with blood, "so let's not ruin the streak." That's what made this so gut-wrenching. He wasn't just dangerous, he was family. How could someone who saved my life now be the one hunting me? The sting of that betrayal kept me up all night pacing, refusing to sit, my mind racing as I started piecing together the puzzle. I tapped an old network, pulled burner phone logs from a cell tower near Simmons Valley and found it one burner, pinged 3 times from a rundown motel, 11 miles out of town, old concrete slab peeling paint. No website, no working ice machine, but the power log showed thermal spikes every 4 hours. Someone was there staying cold, and I knew it was him. Before dawn, I was on the move, heart pounding, driving a neutral truck with plates from a junked rental. I'd bought off a friend 3 states away. I parked in an alley behind a shuttered body shop, the silence heavy, and waited for hours, eyes scanning the motel. Nothing until a door creaked open, blackout curtains shifting, no lights. Jake stepped out, and my breath caught. Same walk, same posture, same dent in the back of his matte black helmet, where I'd once clocked him with off my shoulder for joking mid-op. He didn't see me, didn't know I was there, but my heart ached with every step he took. He fed $1 into the vending machine, grabbed a water, and I almost stepped out to confront him. But then he looked right at me. No flinch, no reaction, just sipped his water and walked back inside. No acknowledgement, no signal. But we both knew he saw me and chose silence. "Why, Jake? Why turn your back on me like that?" I didn't barge in, didn't confront him, not yet. Instead, I slipped a folded photo into his saddlebag, a snapshot of us in Baghdad grinning like idiots, bloody, dusty, but alive. On the back, I scrawled in Sharpie, "You owe me more than silence." Tucked inside a single 3-8 round, a message he couldn't ignore. That night, my laptop lit up at 3:12 a.m., an encrypted audio file with no sender. I played it in Jake's voice, flat, cold, mission ready, cut through like a knife. "You always said we'd be ghosts when this ended, but you built a fence, Callahan. You stopped moving, now you're a mark. Walk away from the HOA mess. This isn't your op. And next time I won't just send eyes." He paused and my heart raced. "That bullet you left cute. But I'm not bluffing either." Then silence. My blood ran cold. What was he planning? I didn't blink, didn't hesitate. I tore through the barn, checking every hidden spot, and found it taped under the hay lift platform, a hard drive labeled Echo Phase 2. I cracked it on an offline burner station, and what I saw made my stomach drop. Drone footage of my land heat maps, my movement trails, zooms on my windows, me on the porch sipping coffee. The final file, a single image, me walking the fence line, crosshairs dead center on my back. Who was watching me this closely? My hands shook as I realized this wasn't just surveillance. It was a death warrant. The next day, Karen held a neighborhood resilience panel, all folded chairs, pitchers of lemonade and fake smiles. We all feel stressed, she chirped, clicking through a PowerPoint. But stress makes us imagine threats where there are none. I couldn't stay silent. I stepped forward from the back, heart pounding. Funny you say that, Karen, because I've got 64 hours of drone footage proving someone sees me as a threat. Her eyes blinked too fast, her composure cracking. Mr. Callahan, this is a safe space, she stammered. Safe for you, maybe with your little Blackwater cosplay running recon. On my barn, I shot back, my voice sharp. You sound paranoid and you sound cornered, she snapped. But I wasn't done. I pulled the printed image from my jacket, held it high. This was taken 3 nights ago, military-grade optics. Know who uses tech like this, Karen? She went silent, her face pale. Jake McBride, he's not sloppy. She snapped, then froze the room, dead quiet. I didn't say he made a mistake. I said, stepping closer, I said he was here. I misunderstood, she mumbled, but I wasn't letting her off. No, Karen, you remembered something you weren't supposed to. Her smile was too tight, too late, and I pressed harder. You're not thinking clearly, she said, desperation creeping in. I'm thinking like someone being hunted, I growled. She leaned in, her voice dripping with fake concern. If you're truly feeling unsafe, the board would be happy to suggest relocation options. If I'm going anywhere, I said, my voice low and deadly, it'll be through your firewall. I walked out, didn't slam the door. Didn't need to. The room felt like a balloon stretched to bursting, and I'd just brought the pin. How could she think she'd outsmart me? Back home, I dug up something I swore I'd never touch again. An old logbook, the only paper record from my Echo unit. Days inside were aliases, handler notes, and one entry that stopped me cold. Echo 6, disavowed 2015. Alias signal ghost, current activity unknown. Final order, neutralize. That was Jake. He hadn't just resurfaced, he'd been reactivated. That hard drive wasn't just surveillance. It was a checklist, and I wasn't the only name on it. Karen wasn't managing an HOA. She was running a target list, and Jake was her trigger man. Who would pull first in this deadly game? They thought I was still playing defense, but I've fought in deserts, jungles, and nameless villages to know better. You don't win by reacting. You win by rewriting the battlefield. So I became the trap, my heart pounding with every move. It started with maps. The Simmons Valley HOA's digital ecosystem was a joke. A patchwork of apps, vendor portals, and security packages. Some nephew probably got a kickback for them. But I knew where to look. Every system has a shadow logs, trails, unsecured ports waiting to be exploited. I found their back-end gateway through EverSafe, their property management company, using a third-party tool for behavioral compliance monitoring straight out of a dystopian nightmare. The portal login page was still live from 2020, password Karen Whitaker. I laughed out loud. Could she be any more careless? What I found inside was a digital killbook, 17 residents flagged as non-compliant, each with personal notes, camera footage, drone observations, schedules, asset values. This wasn't surveillance, it was targeting. Karen was logging lives like a hit list with HOA letterhead, and my blood boiled at the thought of her smug face. I mapped their recon and launched my own using a trick from Syria, Lure and Log. I set a riding mower just off my western property line, not running, just idling, battery rigged to cycle noise every 30 seconds. At 2:14 a.m., the tripwire snapped 2 heat signatures, male low. Crouch 1 with a rifle, 1 with comms. They weren't there to steal. They were testing my reaction time. Time for my test. 2 nights later, I tagged their bikes with tiny GPS beacons disguised as license plate screws, the same trick we used on enemy convoys when we wanted to track, not fight. The pings led to an abandoned equipment lot, 14 miles southwest, their staging ground. My heart raced. This was it. Here's where it got juicy. Karen filed a formal petition to have me relocated for community harmony under some BS HOA clause, seconded by a John H. Myers. The signature, Jake's handwriting, from our 2011 Panama recon mission. Nice try, Jake. So I showed up not at the lot, but at the HOA's General Assembly. Karen's monthly power trip with folding chairs, a coffee station, and a laminated schedule obsessing over trash, bin uniformity, and pet bark decibel norms. I walked in mid-meeting, And Karen froze mid-sentence, her eyes wide. "Mr. Callahan, you're not on the speaker list," she barked. "I'm not here to speak," I said, my voice steady. "I'm here to testify." The room went dead quiet as I tossed a thick folder onto the center table. Printed contracts, vendor payments, invoices to Simmons Valley Compliance Patrol, and photos McBride on her porch, her signature on a drone recon budget time-coded footage of Karen handing a phone to a biker in tactical gloves. "This is fake," she blurted too fast. "Metadata says otherwise," I shot back, my heart pounding. "Created on your HOA-issued laptop." She looked around desperate for backup but found none. Anyone could have hacked it. The folder was called K-Private HOA Archives. Do not touch. You uploaded it from your guest Wi-Fi. Karen likes cats. A few people snorted and her face cracked like cheap glass. "You're bluffing," she spat. "You know who I am," I said, stepping closer. "You're a paranoid loner with a gun fetish. Wrong, you're a threat. Karen, and I'm the guy who trained the guy you hired to scare me." Silence swallowed the room. She stood fumbling for her phone, but I walked over, placing my hand on the table. "Call them, let's see how it plays out." Her finger hovered the screen, glowing, her confidence crumbling. "You think you're untouchable," she whispered. "No, Karen, you just realized you're not pulling the strings anymore," I said, my voice low and deadly. And then the doors swung open. My brother, Sheriff Callahan, strode in full uniform badge, gleaming no smile, flanked by two deputies, a county cybercrime officer and a warrant. Karen's voice cracked like brittle ice. "You can't be serious. He's your brother." "That's why I didn't want to serve it," he said flatly, his eyes cold. "You're framing me," she shrieked. "No, Karen, you did that all by yourself," he turned to the board. "This HOA is under investigation for conspiracy, fraud, and misuse of law enforcement-style contracting. If anyone else here has been threatened, speak now." Half the room stood there, voices rising, and Karen sank into her chair, defeated. They escorted her out quietly, but before she left, she shot me a look, face-pale eyes burning with venom. "You think this is over?" she hissed. "Karen," I said, my voice calm but lethal, "this hasn't even started." My heart pounded with triumph, but deep down I knew this was far from over. Who was next in this deadly game? Oh man, can you believe it? The very next day I knew this nightmare was far from over. I swung open my mailbox, heart pounding, and there it was, a plain white envelope. No return address, staring back at me like a silent threat. Inside, a single photo of my house captured from a drone, its infrared overlay. Time-stamped 3:44 a.m., the night before the ambush. A sticky note clung to it, the words chilling my blood. Karen was the welcome mat. Now comes the front door. Karen was just a pawn. My mind raced. Who was pulling the strings? I'd ripped back the curtain, and now someone with deeper pockets, wider reach, and zero rules was watching me. I'd just given them a reason to take me seriously, and my gut screamed, "What's coming next?" There's a kind of quiet that settles in after you've taken down the loudest threat, but it's never peaceful. It's heavy, oppressive. Like the air itself is waiting for the next blow. Karen was in custody, the HOA board was crumbling, and the whole neighborhood was treating me like I'd single-handedly stopped the apocalypse. But deep inside, nothing felt resolved. If Karen was the tip of the spear, someone else was gripping the shaft, and they weren't done with me yet. How could I rest when the danger was still out there? The threats didn't stop. Oh no, my mailbox rattled in the dead of night. My trail cams triggered at 2:00 a.m. every other evening, and a drone zipped over my Westfield, high fast, silent like a ghost in the sky. Someone out there had more money, more power, and way less patience than Karen ever did. I couldn't keep playing defense, not anymore. So I threw open my war chest, heart pounding with resolve. This was war, and I was ready. In Delta, there's an unspoken rule: when the mission changes, you adapt, no hesitation, no emotion, just recalibrate. So I dove back into the HOA server logs, my fingers flying over the keyboard. Karen's arrogance had left a trail loud as her clipboard, and I was going to follow it. I found a folder marked Circle 1 Active Ops, encrypted but sloppily so. Amateur hour inside a reference to Beta Site 3 stopped me cold. Everything clicked into place. Beta Site 3 was supposedly a failed DHS think tank experiment From 2011, a covert community stabilization test disguised as an HOA initiative, publicly scrapped in 2015. On paper, sure things get shut down, but this was alive and kicking. Karen wasn't just a power-hungry tyrant. She was a local manager for something massive, something sinister. My heart raced. What had I stumbled into? I grabbed my encrypted backup drive and called the one person who could make sense of this. Lita, my old contact with her usual sharp-tongued charm. If this is about another dead goat or some deleted email trail, I swear to God she started. But I cut her off. It's bigger. Lita. Way bigger. I need you to trace federal contractor shells linked to Circle One through HOA portals. She went quiet for 3 agonizing seconds. Jesus, Callahan, you're really in it now, she said, her voice low. Was I ever out of it? I shot back, my pulse racing. An hour later, she called back, and her words hit like a freight train. They're laundering intel through management platforms. Beta Site 3 is active with Langley's fingerprints all over it. Civilian contractors posing as compliance reps and the shooters. One name keeps popping up, Reyes. Ring a bell. Did it ever? Reyes was my spotter best in the game. The guy who could read wind like it was written in the sky. Last I heard, he'd gone off-grid after a botched mission in Honduras, but now he was listed as R. Dale on a Simmons Valley invoice for specialized community oversight response. My heart sank. Another brother turned enemy. I tracked an IP tied to his activity to a farmstead in Hollow Creek, abandoned on the outside, but buzzing inside. Thermal scans showed 3 warm bodies, one pacing, one seated, one prone. They were training staging, ready to strike. I left Reyes a gift, a .308 shell, scratched with, "You owe me an answer." My hands shook as I placed it. Would he even care? The next night, my burner phone rang, and Reyes's voice dry as gravel came through. "I told them you wouldn't stay buried," he said, and my heart twisted. "You knew it was me the whole time." I snapped. "You didn't hide your prints," he replied, calm as ever. "You're working for them?" I asked, disbelief choking me. "I'm surviving," he said, pausing. "That's what we called it when we had no choice. We still don't. They sent Jake, but he wasn't enough. You rattled Karen so hard she started improvising. That's why I stepped in." My mind reeled. What now? "Now they pay me to clean up the mess," he said, and I stayed silent, already plotting. I needed a location, a hierarchy, a crack in their chain, and Reyes gave me one. They call it the circle. You were always outside it, but now you're in the middle and they're closing in. My blood ran cold. How deep did this go? For 2 days, I turned my ranch into a fortress, heart pounding. With every nail and wire, I laid silent perimeter mics, tethered IR tripwires to flare triggers, and rigged my garage door with a magnetic EMP lock. Then I waited, every nerve on edge. At 3:38 a.m., the motion alarm screamed, "North fence breached, 1 biker." Not Jake Younger, shakier, creeping along the line. I tracked him through 5 cameras, my breath shallow until he reached the barn. The trap sprung. A tripwire tension bar snagged his leg, snapping him into the dirt. He froze, his mic hot, whispering, "Subject perimeter compromised." No visual on asset. I stepped out from the stall, my voice low and deadly. "That's because the asset has visual on you." He reached for his belt, and I fired 1 round beside his hand, the crack echoing. "Next one doesn't miss." His eyes widened, terror flashing. "You're not supposed to be what, awake, armed, or alive?" I cuffed him, dragged him to the tool shed, and left him for the sheriff. Message sent loud and clear. The next day, Karen out on bail. Can you believe it? Strutted to my gate in her power suit, clipboard in hand, lawyer trailing like a nervous shadow. "Mr. Callahan, this is a courtesy visit to remind you you're trespassing. You've been deemed a hostile actor," she declared, her voice dripping with fake authority. "You've been deemed irrelevant." I shot back, my heart pounding with defiance. "You may have stopped my people, but you haven't stopped the program," she sneered. "Did you rehearse that in front of a mirror?" I laughed, watching her lawyer squirm. "You think you're funny," she snapped, but I leaned in, eyes blazing. "No, I think I'm free." Her lawyer shifted uncomfortably, and Karen hissed, "This doesn't end with me. You made the circle look weak. They'll fix that." I grinned, unfazed. "Good. Let them try." My heart soared. I wasn't backing down. That night, an unmarked envelope appeared, clean, paper black ink inside a personal check For 7 figures, no signature, just a post-it note. Everyone has a price. I burned it without a second thought, the flames licking my resolve higher. The next morning, Reyes showed up in person, no gear, no weapon, just standing at my fence like he was waiting for a bullet. "What now?" I asked, my voice steady but my heart racing. "They're going dark," he said, his eyes distant. "Why?" I pressed him. "You made too much noise. Your brother's probe got DHS attention. Langley's scrubbing the beta." My heart leaped. Was it over? "No," he said, shaking his head. "They're just changing names." I stared at him. "And you," he looked down. "I'm out if you let me walk." My jaw tightened. "You owe me answers," I said, my voice sharp. "I gave you more than they'd allow," he replied, and I hesitated. "You think that clears your tab?" He didn't answer, just turned and walked away, and I let him go. My heart heavy, but my resolve unbroken. I didn't stop preparing, though. Reyes was holding something back. Something he was too loyal or too scared to admit. I found one final file on Karen's HOA server, encrypted, hidden behind a dummy lease document. When I cracked it, my breath caught no names, no threats, just a heading reassignment. Pilot Zone Midwest. Beta with coordinates, not for Simmons Valley, but somewhere else. This wasn't the end. It was just the end of my chapter, and someone else's war was about to ignite. My heart pounded. What was the circle planning next? The first night after the takedown, the silence was deafening. Not heard, but felt thick and heavy, like the valley itself was holding its breath. No engines roared, no flashlights swept through the trees, no Karen's shrill voice, just the wind dragging across dry grass, erasing what had been the sheriff's office. Seized everything. Boxes, drives, screenshots, maps, every HOA budget log, drone invoice, and community wellness report. Now evidence in a federal investigation. The irony, for all their surveillance obsession. The circle didn't see this coming, or maybe they did and didn't care, because by the time the feds arrived, Karen was gone. No statement, no perp walk, just vanished like a ghost. Her name scrubbed from the HOA website. How does someone disappear like that? The board posted a pathetic message. Due to unforeseen transitions, Simmons Valley HOA will be restructuring operations. Restructuring a war crime. Give me a break. I should have felt victorious, but instead I felt unmoored, like I'd built my home on solid ground, only to find a sinkhole gaping beneath it. The next morning I walked my ranch, the sun rising slow, my boots sinking into damp soil, the cattle quiet at the northern fence. That's when I found it, one last surveillance node tucked in a fake fence post cap, its red light flashing defiantly. I unscrewed it, held the compact device with its tiny circle logo, and crushed it between two rocks, tossing the pieces into the well. No more watchers, not on my land. I stormed to the barn, ripping out every bug camera and signal trap I'd let linger during the op, piling them into a steel drum. I lit the fuse and stood there, heart pounding, watching plastic melt and metal curl until it was nothing but ash. Hours later, Lita called, her voice bright. "Congratulations, your case file's closed." I wasn't convinced. "You sure?" I asked, my voice tight. "Your brother's team triggered a federal flag with the HOA's metadata. Langley's denying everything. DHS is playing dumb, but someone upstairs shut it down fast," she said. My heart sank. "They're scrubbing everywhere." "But one place," I said. "Where?" she asked. "Midwest. A new Phase 3 site, not officially connected, but the fingerprints are there." I sent her the data, my hands shaking. "You're not done, are you?" she asked, and I laughed bitter. They wanted me to quit, and they should have offered more than money. No way was I backing down. My brother didn't call, he just showed up, his truck crunching gravel, heavy with old memories. He brought burgers and a six-pack, and we sat on the porch, the hills fading into that golden dusk haze that feels like a promise. "You planning on staying?" he asked, his voice soft. "For now," I said, my heart heavy. "You gonna rebuild?" He pressed. "Maybe," I said, eyes on the horizon, "or I take what I know and burn this thing to the ground." He handed me a beer, chuckling. "You always did like to overachieve." My heart warmed. He knew me too well. That night I found a package at my gate. A steel case, unmarked, padlocked, my pulse racing as I opened it. Inside, a burner phone, a USB drive, and a folded Delta Force patch, but altered, the eagle replaced with a hollow black circle stitched below. Phase 3 initiated awaiting asset confirmation. Read a note. I didn't sleep, sitting in the garage surrounded by gear I hadn't touched in years. Maps, field guides, comms, equipment, and dog tags I'd buried under a beam a decade ago. I dug them out, wiped off the dirt, and laid them beside the burner phone, my heart pounding with purpose. At exactly 4:00 a.m., the phone lit up. Block number 1 text, confirm receipt, awaiting position. I didn't respond, not yet. I stepped outside, stood under the stars, and breathed deep, the night wrapping around me. Then I said it aloud to no one but the darkness. You really think I'm the kind of man who turns down a second war? My voice echoed with defiance. I walked back inside, sat until dawn because here's what they never got. You can buy silence with money threats or law, but once someone's seen the machine, you can't make them unsee it. And me, I don't forget, I don't forgive, I get ready. Karen's gone. The HOA's dead, but the circle. They just changed zip codes. The next time they pull this, they'll face someone who's been through it all and come out swinging. I'm ready, bring it on.